Tony D and Little Joan in the background, and this is a screenwriter's rant on Aporia, a movie starring Judy Greer as a woman who loses her husband and then goes back in time to save him, only to lose something much bigger. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 11, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. This is a pretty standard time travel story, if you could call it that. Somehow Judy Greer's friend invents a time machine after she loses her husband, goes back in time, changes history so he's alive, but that in turn starts to create other problems until eventually the little girl, his daughter, is the one who is killed. And then the only way they can correct time is to completely reset back to the way things were. And of course, the husband's like, well, I want my daughter to live. And so that's probably what happens. I mean, it's kind of a very basic time travel story. Let's see, who wrote this thing? Written and directed by Jared Moshe, starring Judy Greer from Archer. She does the voice of Cheryl. She's actually very good, I think. As an actress, I like her. I think she's attractive. But you know, I'm not sure if it's her daughter or if it's just his daughter by another marriage. I'm not sure who this guy is. Is this Judy Greer's dad, maybe? Or friend? I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I normally love time travel stuff, but this one just seems so basic. You know? It's like, okay, you go back in time, you change the past, but then there's a price to be paid, and then it's changed for the worse, and then you eventually have to make a tough decision. And eventually what happens, I would guess maybe Judy Greer sacrifices herself in order so her husband and his child can live, or her child too, and then that's the end of the movie, maybe? I don't know. So first act probably starts after the death of the no, they probably want to establish him first, and then he dies, and then in her grief she turns to her dad or friend or whoever he is. He builds a time machine, says we have this time machine. They use it, go back in time, they somehow save the father. He calls it you could send almost a bullet back to the past, so maybe he can actually kill people in the past. I don't know. Change history. Maybe kills the drug dealer. So now the husband's back, and at first it's great, and Judy Greer likes it, but then they're talking about the repercussions of what they've done. Things have changed. Things are slightly off. Things are not happening that should happen, and things that are happening that shouldn't have happened, and that eventually leads in the climax to somehow the death of the little girl. So the little girl dies in the place of the husband. Now they want to go back in time again, but they're worried that they'll make things even worse, or maybe they do it a bunch of times, and every time they do it, something else goes wrong. You know, they change one thing, but then something's much worse, and they realize the more they do this, then the worse things get. And then for some reason, the big conceit is, well, if we hit reset and put things back the way they were, we can never go through time again, and things will be back to the way they were. So maybe they do that, and the lesson is you can't change the past. I mean, it's kind of been done. I'm not sure, you know, it feels like you're not really giving us much of a new twist here. I mean, this is even kind of the story in, I think, the Time Machine. I think, doesn't H.G. Wells originally go back in time to save his wife? And that's kind of the lesson. You don't want to go back in time, but he ends up going to the future or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, so not seeing this as a good version of time travel. I mean, it's a nice low budget production. I appreciate the ambition, but time travel movies are really tough. They're so tough to get right because time travel can't happen, and or we can't perceive it as happening, and it's a very complicated sci-fi concept, and that's what it is. It's a sci-fi concept. It's not really a scientific concept. They just can't really do it. And if they could do it, how would you know? You're in a timeline, and as far as you know, it's fine. It's the way things should have gone, because they go this way. You're not going to remember changing the past, even if you change it, really. So that's part of the problem with dealing with this concept. Like Bill and Ted deals with it in a fun way. I like that. Doctor Who's a little different. Deals with it kind of in a science fiction-y way, but doesn't really get into the, it doesn't do the changing of history kind of thing, really. Not really. Not a lot. So, yeah, it's just, and then, you got stuff they're doing in the Marvel Universe, which to me just seems an excuse to, like, mix up things around and change up all the actors and do stuff that they normally can't do in a storyline. It kind of becomes a crutch or a cop out. Now, I'm not saying that's the case here, but time travel is kind of getting overused. Always sort of has been, especially with, I remember when they did it in the Lost in Space movie, and I just thought, why are they doing this here? We've established a completely new version of Lost in Space, and now you're going to time travel on top of that and expect us to remember the new version and then the alternate versions of that new version. Too confusing in my view. So this one isn't confusing, it's nice and simple, but I think the problem with it feels very basic in terms of a time travel story. Really not bringing much to the table here in my view. And I really like Judy Greer, and I'd love to see her, more movies, maybe have her career take off a little more. She is very funny. I think she's probably being a comedy. Yeah, a time travel comedy, that might have been fun. Anyhow, it's called Aporia. Here's a write-up. Since losing her husband, Sophie has struggled to manage grief, get a full-time job, and parenting her devastated daughter, but when a former physicist reveals a secret time-bending machine, Sophie will be faced with an impossible choice. Okay. So it is her daughter, too. All right. Thing is, the clip they show the daughter, she doesn't seem devastated by the father in that moment. Now maybe that's further down the line, or maybe that's after she's already time traveled and saved the father, and she doesn't even realize he's been saved. Doesn't realize because he hasn't been killed. She just don't even know. But that would have been good to put in there. I think the daughter being devastated. It's a time bending machine. I don't know. Would I see it? I really do love time travel stories, so I might see it. But the drama aspect of this feels so basic. I don't know. I strongly suspect I'll be kind of bored with it. But, I mean, I think it would be a watchable movie. I don't think it would drag or anything like that. But, I don't know. Kind of on the fence about it. I definitely wouldn't go to the theater for it. I'd watch it on VOD, and if I get bored, I'd be like, zoom. But yeah, maybe. I don't know. Real tough one to parse there. So look for it. When the heck is this coming out? No date on it. So Aporia. Also, not a great name for a time travel movie. I don't know. I'd call it something else. Aporia just seems like nothing. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D, and Sleepy Little Joe. Check me out at the Dragon Boat races today at the Camden County Boathouse, assuming we haven't been blown away from a storm. The storms have been nice and light for the most part, kind of intense for a few minutes and then light. So I'm hoping tomorrow it's when you see this, it's not too bad, and I'm under a 10, and I haven't had all my inventory drowned by a torrential rainstorm, but we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Hope to see you there, and we'll see you in the next one.